Hello, so this will be following on from the previous video. I'm not going to show any new language features here. I'm just going to show more examples of programming. So what we've got is we had the board and we could click around and indefinitely drop as many red pieces as we want. Now, that's fine, but in the full game, we will have the players drop pieces one at a time, and then after 4 pieces have dropped, the game will enter a new phase. So I'm going to need a bit more state. I'm going to need to know the current player, and that will be a board piece variable, and I'm going to want to know how many pieces were dropped by each player, and that will be an array of integers, 2 of them. Okay, no worries. So let's go back to the main function, and then right over here where we make the board, we'll just say, okay, the current player will be, I'll probably make things a little easier for myself by using this. So I'll go model game board piece. We'll say, okay, we'll start with the red player, and then for the pieces dropped, be 0 for both of them. Okay, excellent. But nothing else needs to change here. I'm going to implement the rest of it in the struct. So I'll just make a function to get the index of the piece. And this is pretty straightforward. Now, I'll just note one thing, and that is if we go right up the top and hover over these, we can see that these pieces have actually been assigned pretty sensible default values. The issue is that using those default values seems to be a little trickier than it should be. So for that reason, just to keep things simple for myself, I'm gonna go with this one. So I'll say, okay, if the piece is red, okay. Now this has a precondition as well, is that it has to be referring to a valid player, so either red or black, but that will be handled by the current player variable, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to work on these early exit tests. Just get rid of this line here. So the first early exit test was if we've just somehow clicked completely off the board, but the second early exit test is if the current player has already dropped 4 pieces. So we'll go pieces dropped if that is bigger than or equal to 4. If it's bigger than 4, we've got bigger problems. But anyway, let's just return. Then the other issue is I don't want the player to click on their own piece or click on the enemy's piece right now. So I'll probably change this later on when the game goes into the next phase, but it's not a big deal here. For now, I'll just say if the board row and column is not none, then no worries. Okay, again, we'll still return. So just to recap, we'll get to this point if we have clicked on the board and we have more pieces to drop and we're clicking on a blank spot. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll drop the self current player. Remember, that's an enum value. We can put it in there. And then I'll make another function to progress to the next turn. So I'll define that maybe here. And we are going to need a mutable reference to self because we are going to be changing some state here. So the first thing I want to do is track that I have dropped another piece. So I'll go pieces dropped, index of current player, increase that by 1. Okay. And then I will simply flip over to the next player. So I'll say if the current player otherwise, well, the player was a black player, so set them to the red player. Okay, no worries. So after we've dropped a piece, then we'll go next turn. And note that we're not having an issue because only one mutable reference to an object can be borrowed at one time. Well, when handle click is called, it is borrowing a mutable reference, and then it lends that mutable reference to the next turn function, and then the next turn function returns the reference to handle click, and then handle click will return the reference to whatever called handle click, in this case, the main program. So let's just test this. So I can run, I click, and it's the red turn. I click, and it's the black turn. Now, if I try to click over myself, nothing happens. Nothing happens. And it's still the red player's turn. It's the black player's turn now. Tries to click on another piece, nothing happens. And we can keep clicking around until, if I've done my math right, yep, there are 4 pieces on each player, and that phase of the game is over. So then the way this goes, by the way, in the next phase, we can't drop new pieces, but it should be the red player's turn right now. What I should be able to do is click on one of my pieces and then move them 1 space. And then the goal is to get 4 in a row. So anyway, I mean, that's it for now. I'm pretty happy with those mouse events. Like I said, no new programming stuff here, Rust-wise, just a bit of good old fun. So anyway, you know, have the best, have a good time, and I'll see you again soon.